I have a focus on AI and lately virtual reality and augmented reality systems. And I'm a longtime Mac developer, Unix developer, all kinds of stuff. So.
Hi everyone, I'm Sam Martino. I'm the CEO and founder of Dogwood Gaming. It's a game studio I started with my friends almost 10 years ago. I apologize for my voice. We've had a booth in the indie section all weekend and it's been very busy, which is a good thing. We've done a lot of more projects in the historical realm recently, because I don't have to tell anybody the video game industry isn't doing great for independent studios. So I really think there's a lot of really cool projects that you can do on the history side with VR that we really should explore more.
Hello, I'm Hunter Dyer. I'm an assistant professor of immersive media at Chatham University in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Hey! Down the road from CMU. I also adjunct at CMU. I am a VR designer and developer, an educator, take a human-centered design approach. On Thursday, I gave a talk on a crash course in VR design, if anyone saw that, the developer side of things. I made the Hunter's puzzles for the Swag, perhaps the most important thing here. And I got a grant to do some virtual reality, introduction to virtual reality this summer, so I'll be making that. Mostly I just yell at students about pixels.
Hello, everybody. My name is Jordan Higgins. I'm a human-centered engineer lead at a company called MITRE, where we do we're basically a federally funded research and development center where we do a lot of work for the public sector. One of my areas of interest right now, I've been designing immersive and emerging technology experiences for about 20 years. Right now I'm looking at immersive platforms and storytelling as a way of supporting group decision-making processes. It's a little, and also looking at basically generative AI tools for accelerating content creation, which is, setting that up is going to be a major theme of what I'm probably going to get on a soapbox about later in this session. So.
I think we've laid ourselves out from developer to designer, except for Will.
Yeah, software. Thank you for all introducing yourselves, and thank you for coming. Let's talk about it. This has been a year. It started out with a lot of announcements, and they developed. So what about this year did you guys find the most surprising and the most interesting and innovative? Let me start over here.
Sure. I've really liked a lot of the big entries in some of the movement space in VR. A lot of the auxiliary tools that go along with it. I think it's called, they're one of which is that they've got these mobility shoes you put your feet into. They've got wheels that counter your movement. It takes about 15 minutes or so to kind of get acclimated to it, and you don't really need like a big cage. Not a big weighty system either, which is great for a lot of us who live in smaller spaces nowadays. So having these kind of things that are either very standstill, there's a swivel-based version as well that has the chair piece, so people can be able to move around more freely without having to do the teleportation travel or with joysticks sliding around. Feels a little bit less nauseous.
So you like that new feature?
Yeah.
John, what did you find the most interesting that popped up this year?
I am seeing a movement towards what you might think of as a closer to thee than closer to thee to me. That doesn't really roll off the tongue very well, but we're seeing a movement towards integrating human-like interfaces to the machines. So, for example, the Quest 3 has gestures. The Apple Vision Pro supports gestures and only gestures. There's no controller. And that's useful for people who want to intuitively manipulate the machinery in the scene with more human-like gestures. That's not really surprising, but that's what I'm seeing, is a more intuitive interface and connection to the human mind.
Sam?
I think it's interesting to see who they're building VR for. It definitely feels like the audience has shifted for what people are looking for. I don't want to take too long because I don't want to go into a whole thing about the Apple Vision Pro. But I just thought it was interesting
will.
when I got to demo it at the Apple Store, and it was like I said, hey, like I want to develop for this. Like, can I see this, this, and this? And they were very like, no, this is a demo on wheels. I have to get permission from my manager for you to go anything outside of this. And that just feels kind of weird because that pushes someone like me away. But their demo is very tailored to. Like, has anybody done the Apple Vision Pro demo? Yeah, and like they know what they're doing. They know how to sell it, but it doesn't feel like as soon as you ask questions, they're like, oh, never mind. So I don't know. It's just interesting who it's being made for and what we're going to start seeing coming for it.
Who here has actually used an Apple Vision Pro outside of the store? That's telling.
High five.
You own one and you can borrow one, so that you guys don't count. By the way, I want to say this from the very beginning. We are not normal users. We are power users, and we sometimes have bias that way. Go ahead.
I'll second hand tracking, and that rising up is like mostly because that just means for me in my job, I just have to get on top of it and make sure I understand it. So it's like, oops, more research. But it is exciting. But the main surprising thing of the past 12 months has been the success of the Meta Ray-Ban glasses. Like we've had so many conversations about getting away from things strapped to our faces and how that's just so, I mean, it's my face. I don't want to put stuff on my face. You know, when I got this prescription, I was sad. I was like, I don't want, anyway. But to see that they're actually getting widespread use and popularity and people are really enjoying them, like more than Meta expected, and now Meta is shifting more of their future projects in that direction. So that was the biggest surprise for me.
And you have something along that line too.
Yeah, actually, that was a great. I couldn't have asked you to set this up better. Like one of the things that I think is, I know we're going to get to the rise and fall of the Vision Pro, but thinking about spatial computing interfaces, and just because I feel like obligatory, every talk now has to mention AI at some point. But thinking about, right now we're at this stage of AI where most people think about it as a text-based interface, right? This is like the text-based adventure games or DOS command line computing from like the late 70s and early 80s, right? That's where we are on the curve. Thinking about augmented and virtual reality, mixed reality interfaces to AI as a computing paradigm, I think that's something we're really starting to see, I think, start to reach some maturity and starting to see like actual real world applications where we're able to go from beyond proof of concept into actual pilots and deployment. And the Meta Ray-Bans are, this year I think it's going to be all about moving to this glasses form factor. We just got in our lab the Snap Spectacles, which everybody is sort of working towards this sort of glasses format with actual displays, and you can kind of see how this has been for Meta. Each iteration has been building off of the capability. The first generation was just getting people, they're like, how small can we make a camera, and how good can we get the battery life, and how can we make sure it doesn't blow up like a Samsung, right? They're each generation is proving out different things. This current generation is now that like oral interface to AI, where it's actually providing auditory like cues and starting to be able to provide scene understanding of being able to kind of look at what's in the world around you and feed that into an AI that can then make you inform you about it. Next generation, so the Snap Spectacles, they're big, they're bulky, but they're also sort of the first gen of the next gen of what we're going to think of as more consumer-friendly devices. So Snaps, there's already out for developers.
You can see a person's eyes. It's transparent through.
I mean, basically,
it's not like Apple Vision Pro.
Yeah,
On the other hand, it looks a little bit like George Jetson's glasses.
Yeah, I mean, glasses like glasses like this. They're very bulky. They're also contained. I did not, but
you said you were going to.
I did, but I had second thoughts. But yeah, that I think has probably been seeing that actually come to a place where we can. So anybody that's ever tried to onboard anybody into a headset or into HoloLens in particular, very bulky, very cumbersome, very difficult to like orient people to. This glasses form factor, it is a very different game. It is so much easier to just take these and throw them on. It will be a game changer, and we're going to see Meta, Orion, like a bunch of like that in very short order. That's starting to get to that price and performance level where we're going to see it scale.
Has anybody played Heavy Rain? This is just what it. Okay, thank you. Old PlayStation 3 game, but this is, and I say old, it's like 2010. No, earlier than that. But anyway, there's a character who's like a special agent that has these glasses, and literally the whole thing is, if anybody remembers it, is like he can create like a 3D ball and you can bounce it off the wall. And I remember being like, wow, that's crazy. This is like the most insane I've ever seen. I just think it's funny that that's the direction that we're heading.
Yeah.
Several of us has done research on old movies and old games to see the interfaces people are thinking about, because now we can actually start to interface.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
know
love
you
my
don't like
Magic Leap
Minority
1.
Report. Yeah.
I bricked Magic Leap 1.
I still find it really kind of amusing. We talked about it last year as well, how it feels very like we're not doing the Google Glass holes conversation that there used to be on this, that nobody feels like it's the big state kind of deal that these, you can see people's faces like you did with that iteration. But now everybody's, this looks neat, this looks cool, and it's just more, people seem to be more accepting of it,
Yeah,
which I find so, it's just wild. It just hit the right time.
Took a long time to get here.
Well,
It did.
our entire cultural relationship with privacy and how we think about privacy and surveillance has shifted over the past 15 years.
Yeah.
Also, the glasses look better,
Yeah.
which
They
is
do.
not nothing.
Well, there was always that one person at every conference, right? Like that had Google glasses and was just desperate for you to ask them about it.
Yes.
Right? And that was.
Don't call me out like this.
No, I'm sorry. I know it, and been there. You know, no
And the
judgment.
person who had the Google glasses, that
But-
they put a little 3D printed implant on it to make him look like a Borg.
Well, they also had that when it was on, they wanted people to
This
know
is
that
the
it was.
future.
Yeah.
It was
Here
where
we
you see had
go.
this
This is
big
what we-
flashlight, so
Yeah.
it did feel like you were just being monitored by.
Yeah, it
One thing-
had the
camera.
opposite effect of making it comforting, right?
Yeah.
It was more like okay, you're on camera, and you're like,
Yeah.
Now, one of the a thing I want to talk about that was new, that has been really explosion. We knew it was coming, but thanks to AI, voice input has become really important. I mean, I no longer use the controller or hand gestures to do a lot of the things I used to do. I don't click here, click there, here, this. Instead, go to this for me, or do this for me, add a note for me. So voice as an input has become real important.
And you can see how this is tending towards combining the human intuitive
Exactly.
interface.
It does require a
voice
higher end. You're not going to be able to
gestures.
use the cardboard VR anymore. You're going to have a little bit of power on it,
Yeah.
which is causing a lot of problems with power packs and everything else. What other interfaces besides the voice have become important? I know we're going to have a debate about hand gesture versus controller. Is there any other? You mentioned motion. Is it not good enough to be able to physically move around the room?
I think as we get to more of like the MR kind of stuff, like
Yeah.
like when we get into you're able to see through, that is going to be less of a concern. But being able to have more of a wider space to be able to explore,
Absolutely.
where you don't have that. Living in a condo where I've got a coffee table in the middle of the room,
But
my
don't-
shins are garbage.
Like, can't you go outside? I mean, the Apple glasses allow you to actually roam around, and it's strange to feel that outside.
Sure, absolutely, but I'm still not there in the same way of seeing people play Pokemon Go out at the park and me there with my glasses doing this.
Yeah.
It doesn't, it feels a little weird to me still, but I think we're culturally, we will get there. But personally, when I'm doing these kind of experiences, be it historical information, entertainment, I like to be in the privacy of my home where I can be free to express and interact with these experiences at my leisure in my own way. And so anything that helps me be able to feel comfortable in my space, to make me receptive to the technologies and the information or the entertainment, the better.
I know, John, that you are a big fan of the idea of 1 + 1 = 3.
Right,
Cognitive.
It's called cross-modal
Yes.
plasticity.
What other senses are we going to see, or what other
Well, the
interfaces?
eye gaze used to be popular.
Good point.
And
Being able to know where you're looking at with your eyes. Which
Right,
is
so you would select an object in the view or a menu in the view with your eye gaze, and
you don't have to point to it. That's a feature of the Apple Vision Pro, as well as the Quest Pro, which is no longer available. Is there any other hardware that has that?
The what's the name of it? HTC? No,
No,
the standalone one by HTC.
the Index?
Not the Index. No, the Flow.
The
But
Flow.
Also, the spectacles.
Spectacles do?
the Snap Spectacles uses gaze as a.
I'm surprised.
a-
I didn't think
Right.
it'd have the CPU power for that.
So you can see that the
I think.
headsets
I
are
hope
getting
I didn't just
smaller. Things are becoming
We
more
all want the
normalized for human.
Tony's.
The Jarvis interface.
Yes, we all want that.
But that's awkward because you don't want a room full of people all enunciating their desires to the headset in public.
I honestly, as much as I love where we're going with all the different senses that we can get and use in VR, but I really worry that there's going to be a point that we're going to start reinventing the wheel. And I truly, what drives me the most mad, and I don't understand who, I always call it Zoidberg. Who thought that this was the right way to type and click things in the Vision Pro? Who, and then when we had talked about it with Steve's like, I have a keyboard. Yeah, why? Why was that not built in? It drives me mad. We have the technology where it could display like a keyboard on your table. It doesn't be a real keyboard, you can just type. Like,
I've done
why is that not where we're going? Because this feels more futuristic, more like, that's the thing is,
Actually, you don't do that, though, because you get gorilla arm. For those that term gorilla arm, having your arm out so long, you start getting weak and everything.
Gorilla arm.
That's true.
You
Even
put
this-
your hand on the table and you do it this way, or you're putting it against your body, and they have actual cameras going down so that you cannot have to see your hands, and it can still be seen to control it.
Now,
So-
I think the Quest 3 has downward cameras.
That's got it all.
They do. So Microsoft did the same thing with the HoloLens, right? Like at the time, they were very committed to this vision of natural computing experiences, to the point where I remember like one of the first things we asked for was the ability. They had Windows Mixed Reality as a platform. They had the controllers, and I've never liked this as an either-or sort of thing. There's some things that require precise tactical, or tactile experiences. There's others that where hand gestures are fine, right? Like it's just kind of what you need to do in the moment.
How many Windows mixed reality users? Yeah. HP Reverb had the best display for a while.
For especially flight sim enthusiasts, like HP Reverb was where it was at.
Yeah.
Like you could read like the actual dials. 100%. But it was more. But it was that it was interesting to me though that they wouldn't allow that flexibility to developers. And similarly with the Vision Pro, right? Like as a developer, that's like I get the impression that the Vision Pro is almost more of a lighthouse device that consumers can actually buy, but otherwise it feels more like something to me that like I should actually only see at CES or at the
I will
biggest
say this
conventions.
over and over again. Apple Vision Pro was not a consumer product. It was a product for developers and early adopters. And they knew that because they wanted us to go out and write software for it to come up with ideas. They recognized the fact that $3,500 is a ridiculous price. The Vision Pro was $3,500.
But it's not ridiculous if you sort of cross shop it with the Vario XR3.
They
The
were
other
only
high end
making
of like
400,000
neutrality
of
is
them,
like
so that
13K.
it wasn't
So-
a mainstream product. It was the first tip in the water, and keep that in mind, please.
To go back to the question on input devices,
Yes.
For me, it's just the space around me. Talk to me about multi-monitor users in the room. And you can't go back? No, because you just arrange things and you know where they are around you spatially, and you use our brains and our body's ability to know like where we are in rooms. We're pretty good at that. We use this excellent spatial ability to help us just passively oh yeah, it's over there. Hey, it's over there. And that's what I'm excited about with augmented reality. Isn't so much changing my I'm not going to reinvent typing. Let's not reinvent typing, Apple. But is to just move things out and around me. And let me have those browser tabs over there. And let me have the other collection of browser tabs up over there. And that recipe in my kitchen. And that is where I want to get to with AR. And that's what I hope we're moving towards. But every day.
This is starting to get towards the use of AI to normalize.
Which is our next question.
No, well, why don't you ask the question then?
Okay. AI, 3 or 4 years ago, if you asked us developers what the most useful AI was, we probably would have said content creation. We thought that was going to be a big future. It's turning out the AI is being used everywhere. Everything from avatar usage to much better voice control input, much better voice feedback. What do you think this year has shown that AI is most useful for?
Well, I wrote the encyclopedia on that. AI is going to be useful for normalizing communications between headsets or the virtual reality area and human mind. So, for example, communication between us in this room is kind of implicit. It's not very explicit. People perceive an opening to talk, and they'll raise their hand, or they'll just suggest something. There are gestures. There's unwritten rules for human communication, and both the virtual reality space are going to need AI, and the human communication space will need AI. So, for me to talk to a virtual reality headset, an AI would have to be used to massage what I say into something the machine can understand. And then what the machine would reply with or do as a result of that would have to be massaged into something the human can understand.
So you want Grammarly for gestures and nonverbal
Well,
supplementary like channels?
I wanted to learn, much like a human would learn
20 years
what
ago-
the gestures mean, and what the unwritten cues are.
20 years ago, we had handheld devices that had, PDAs, and that we had graffiti, which was the handwriting back there. And they gave up trying to figure out a person's handwriting. Instead, they tried to have the person learn how to write a shorthand that the computer would understand.
That was very clever.
Because truthfully, the computers were not good enough. AI is good enough to know the context. We ramble. English language is incredibly inefficient. And to be able to parse the English language has been amazing.
Yep. Now, there's one aspect to this, and it involves generative AI, and that is that a lot of the generative AI is just responding to patterns that it recognizes from the past. And that's why coining another phrase, or saying, machine learning is about the past. Machine understanding is about the future. So you can build a generative AI based on past patterns, but to understand what is being said really requires an intelligence that's understanding what the patterns are, and that's the future.
Anyone else comment on that? Because I think you've nailed it, John.
I really love its ability to analyze and compile research and just go through massive amounts of data, which has opened up the possibilities to do a lot. I don't know, I see so much potential in it, but I also see so much happening of what happened to cryptocurrencies and NFTs and all of that, is that there's so many grifters. And I think that it can be so helpful to make all of these programs run better and actually have the information necessary to do everything it needs to do, but that work needs to be done. And I really hope that the work is going to be done for these things for us to get to that point.
I'm going to, at this point, start opening questions. Does anyone have any questions that we could possibly answer, or any interests? Gentleman in white?
So, realistically, do you think that in the long run, more funding will go towards AR than VR?
In the long run, AR is probably, we've all agreed on that, probably AR in the long run. Short term?
No,
Okay, please counter that.
So
Yeah.
my general take on this is that I think that the line between AR and VR is going to be increasingly blurred to the point where it doesn't matter.
Agreed.
Mixed reality,
Yeah.
contextual.
But is it a mixed reality by its nature and augmented reality? Because one of the mixes of it is the real
Depending on
life.
the occlusion, I would
Okay.
say, because I say the more the percentage of your physical real world is being removed, the more we get into the virtual reality.
Agreed.
So as we get
As
into more meta-based spaces, things like that, as opposed to something that is meant to anchor to your world. So I see my recipe in my
So,
kitchen.
as a
and my
designer,
food.
where we're going to draw the line is going to be separate from where the hardware is.
True.
And where we're drawing the line is does the user, am I taking information about the environment, and is that part of the experience? Am I
What-
using that as an input device? Am I treating that with some sort of significance?
What are the user's goals at this moment when they are they are in the experience, and what level of immersion do they need? And having sort of one device that's able to kind of span the whole use case, I think, is where we'll ultimately be headed for that. And that's also where I think AI is going to play a huge component in sort of that understanding of both user intent and the user environment.
Yeah, and that's where I like a lot of the controls for degrees of as designers, degrees of occlusion for what you're seeing through. So to be able to block something from your vision that's either closer to the glasses or something that's occluding in the world space, so you can be able to choose what you need to be able to see. Sometimes for accessibility, text in floating space is garbage. I hated seeing Picard. I couldn't stand it every single time they brought up a screen, they're reading text, and they're seeing through. How helpful is that to you?
But so something to think about though, like how much does that might that and not to push back on it, but more just to think like how much cognitive load does that add for the user to have to decide that? Like I want the system to understand and make that decision for me, but then give me control to override it.
Absolutely.
But that's a real sticky like how do we start to like phase people in and out of reality in a way that also is safe and.
You mentioned that the exclusion being able to have the real world interface. One of the most important things, and we're just starting to see it, is surface detection, because I want to have things interacting and landing on the surface. I don't want to go through the table. I want things to be placed that way. And what it means to have a surface is different in your environment, different rooms of the house. So now that we're starting to see that, the effect, it makes it much more real.
Yeah. Like, I would love to not have to have two desks in my office, one where I'm painting minis and the other where I've got these giant monitors. If I could have it permanently anchored, I'm able to set it up, the machine understands my space, it is helping me. It gives me more space back. I love that. Anything that can help me contextually do my day-to-day.
Yeah.
Isn't that the definition of a killer app, is something that gave you an experience you've never had before?
Yeah.
That actually improves things?
Yeah.
You had a gentleman, question.
It's just to sort of touch upon it, we're also seeing in regards to the mixed reality thing that pass-through technology is starting to become really good. Even lower-end headsets like the Quest 3, the jumping body on how pass-through works on that between the Quest 2 and 3 is staggering. That to the point where it's like, it's Apple Vision Pro, obviously, it's a mixed reality, it's an AR headset basically, mixed reality. The Quest 3, the pass-through on that is so good that essentially if I'm in my room, I can be like typing on the computer while I'm still in headset, pretty much one-to-one. And I feel like we're pretty much at sort of like a precipice where I feel like developers just need to like use this more, that it's basically there to sort of like enable more AI development. And I think it's like a matter of like maybe just a little bit more needs to be done, or maybe it's just a matter of developers like picking up that ball and running with it.
Very likely.
The current developer toolkit for your room recognition and getting like consistent and stable, like, oh, that is where a counter is, that is where a table is, that is where the walls is, and having that not change. Meta has been, over the past few years, they just update it and they're constantly updating it. So ask anybody who's been working in the mixed reality for the Quest space. It's been a nightmare. And
I
they're
wouldn't
just
say it's
waiting
still
for it to
good
get
yet.
more stable.
It's just starting to get good.
It's good when it works, but like they're, even on the back end, on the meta side of it, they're just like, they're iterating too fast. It's like using a nightly build of something.
So something that I really need someone who's smarter than me with data sets to look at and help me understand better. But Meta's Aria project, which is their sort of next generation glasses, their research department just like released a whole data set of like virtual environments for training applications and things like that. That I'm curious as to like how, what are some of the ways that we could actually tap into that now? Because I feel like that's setting the stage for a lot of the sort of next generation applications. Anyhow,
We've been
not sure what
constantly
the point there
talking
is,
about
but-
Apple and Meta. Is there any other, and you've mentioned Snap, but these are really niche ones with very small manufacturing abilities. Are we going to see anyone else step in the arena? You know, the most
Google.
popular VR of all time is the PlayStation.
but
Yeah.
Google,
Sony,
Google's the big one.
Android XR, an actual competitor to like get Meta to start adding features to their OS.
Yes, but we don't really see the
that's
volume
also
being
gonna
sold,
be
and we don't
based on
see the-
Android.
Well, because it was literally just announced, right?
Yeah,
Like Google's Android XR, but there's they would acquired that team from HTC. They're acquired a lot of the IP from Magic Leap too. Like they've got the whole pour one out. But there's I think Google's entry into the space is going to be, and especially once I look at what they're doing on the AI side, where there's been a lot of criticism, like what has Google been doing, and then they unveil something like their latest
Yeah,
text
but
to
they don't
video
have-
thing. I mean, it's going to be. I think
They've
it's
never
gonna
been
be
really well known for their hardware capability of actually manufacturing and putting things out.
Any Google Tango users?
See?
Just me.
But does
Google
anybody have a
made an
Google, does anybody have a
AR
Google Pixel phone?
Google made AR tablets back in like
we got more.
2016, 2017.
Yeah.
No, just me? Cool. Okay, cool.
Something that Apple and Google have that Meta does not is a lot of consistent design systems. And one thing that I am looking forward to for the Android XR coming out is they're going to base it on their entire open Google design
Yeah.
UX standards. So if one thing will come out of this, if at least one thing will, is a better unified rule set to help people better understand how to interact with their space, so we don't have to do from application to application figuring
Yeah.
out how to map out your world space.
I-
Anything to
I
make that
agree, and I completely disagree at the same time. So
Explain.
much of what is troublesome with, well, back up. Hey, are iPhones not boring or are iPhones boring? Anyone excited about the next iPhone announcement? What new features we're going to get? Rumors of an iPhone Slim, Air or whatever?
Mini.
No, okay. So they're boring because, and ooh, Android phones. Samsung, what do you got? The same thing, cool. But head overseas, head to India where you don't have the like SIM card makers bottling us down in the States, and you get way more interesting devices and way more interesting hardware. I want that energy in the XR and the UI space, and I think that like Android XR is closer than what Meta has for it, but I still see a couple companies who are so afraid of the Google Cardboard thing happening,
Yeah.
where you go into a Google Cardboard poorly, you have a bad experience, and then you say, oh, all of VR is not for me. And they're so terrified of that experience that they like. It took Meta so long to open up their store and then do the whole, what was their app marketplace? They had like a second one for less tested apps. I want things to be more open. I think anyone who saw me yesterday, I think WebXR can get us there and do just like a free internet of have people experiment and actually do interesting things. Yet I
WebXR
also want exactly what you said.
Yeah, because the counter to it's like that, I love it when technology gets boring. That means it's usable. That means everybody kind of, oh yeah, you do this. It's just second nature.
Everybody has a mental model of how
Yeah.
it should work.
Yeah, and then that's when we start to get to be able to blow it out.
That's
out.
why we have a panel discussion, is the differences in
But
opinion.
the
here.
Apple Vision Pro is an iPad UI.
Can you
But
explain?
that's not necessarily a bad thing though.
Yeah.
Like as a
Terrible thing.
but I mean think about like the first gen iPhone versus the like current state of the iPhone interface, right? Like that's the baseline.
Things are allowed to be joyful and magical.
I know, I agree.
You're allowed.
But-
You're allowed to. The technology can make. You can enjoy yourself.
I'm-
You use
I'm-
it. It can make you happy.
But
I'm not. Did I say it
keyboard.
shouldn't? Like I mean I did. No. I'm just saying like the iPad is a familiar paradigm for the developer community to move to, but then look at Apple's like investment in WebXR, right? Like I think there's short term and then there's long term, right?
I saw a little bit of
Safari down,
puzzled
so we
looks.
have to use their web browser.
Gentlemen,
Yeah, okay,
gentlemen.
yeah, blah. Okay, now I'm joyless again.
Let's step back a second. Without getting into a big discussion, in 20 seconds, explain what WebXR, because I saw some puzzled looks out there.
Yeah, WebXR is coming after WebGPU, which is coming after WebGL.
There have been a lot of abbreviations. Just tell them what it
Great.
is.
A set of browser APIs that let us talk to hardware in a unified way,
Yeah.
effectively. So now we can have your Flash games that had to run in their own engine to be powerful, sort of that kind of environment for web games, and that's spreading out to people going, oh, wait a second, if we can get hardware using OpenXR standards, so you can go on websites, click a little button, enter VR mode, and it can understand your devices, and you can render
When it
out
comes
3D
down
images.
to, for the user, it means that as a developer, we can write an app and it can run on the Apple Vision Pro or the Meta or any other device.
So
There
It's a
is
website.
a clone
Yeah.
of Sabre.
I'm actually on the W3C Immersive Web Working
Right.
Group as a representative, and it's actually very, very interesting seeing how like all the major hardware manufacturers are in there trying to discuss the standards and like trying to get like specifications out there for review. It's actually like this has been around for a while. I don't know if people remember like Mozilla Hubs or A-Frame. Like we've had the technology for ages, and it's just still hasn't quite materialized as a way that people interact with the web or each other. I think largely that's been limited to device hardware, right? Like it's
Device hardware and typing a URL
Yeah.
In a headset.
yeah,
No.
yeah. So like there are that's where like being able to look at things like a QR code and have
Yeah,
that
yeah.
open in VR. Like I'm kind of amazed that hasn't been solved yet.
It's existed, but nobody wants to use it. And this goes back to the Apple Vision Pro thing. That was why I went to the Apple Store to try Vision Pro. I said, I'm working with a company that has a website that they want to have a VR mode where you can just go to the website and literally access VR mode, and then you're in the 3D space and everything.
Yeah.
It was so many hurdles to even get to the beginning point of that, and it's like, this technology exists. This is what developers want to do, but it doesn't feel like we can get to it.
For 6 months, Apple did not adopt the WebXR standard. They have now adopted it, and according to some people, it's the best one out there to actually use.
So I should go back to the Apple
Yeah,
Store.
you don't.
Well, no, I mean,
you should borrow someone's machine and try it.
I mean, yeah, they brought on Etta Rose Cannon, who's like WebXR, like pioneer, right? Like they're. I think it's though important to remember that we're still at the early days curve, right? I mean, I think last year we were talking about the Vision Pro coming out and what we thought it would be and all that. It's a long.
We just have to trust a small number of large companies to do web open web standards well.
Oh yes, we all agree on that.
Yes, I
One of
definitely
the other
agree.
barriers too on the website.
Not trust, but hold them responsible to, as
One of the-
as developers, right?
Over here.
One of the problems on the website that at least I was consistently running into, a lot of the ones that would just do web link or QR code would also have to have a storage subscription fee applied to it. When I was working in journalism under this, we had a budget of next to nothing. Journalism doesn't get a lot of money. And so we were looking to try and do AR, VR platforms that VR experiences that would go through just a web-based link, WebXR, and go through. But the people that created those setups would want you to pay a subscription fee on top of those things. So, and then plus per impression as well.
Yeah.
So it was unreliable. You
Yeah.
couldn't stay a consistent evergreen product on
Yeah.
these things. And some of those things, it's just these walled gardens are still being built up. And
So-
that's been one of the big struggles because the tech is there.
There are very few.
I actually, just to follow up real quickly, I built was about 4 or 5 years ago, but we built a mobile web AR game that was involved to help a government agency make quarters more interesting. And the idea was that you could take any quarter, scan it. It used actually on-device machine learning to recognize a quarter, and then George Washington would come to life off of the quarter and play a game of two truths and a lie with you. It was really, really fun when it worked.
Yeah.
But across devices, and this is probably a whole nother talk that would be interesting. But it just was not stable enough to actually launch at the scale it would have been.
You guys have to remember
Well-
that there are very few VR developers out there who are making money. Beat Saber being an exception. Most of them are people dipping their toes in it, and they don't always have budget to do a good
Well,
app.
the super hot devs basically turned into producers,
Yeah.
right?
But what you're describing is science projects, not products.
Good way of putting it.
The AVP is not a product, really. It's a litmus test. Quest could be considered a product, just maybe, but the way it's changing, it's more like a test platform.
So that to Christmas 2023.
Well,
yeah, I would say I'm not sure I see the argument, but
Yeah.
Quest feels very much like a product
Yeah,
that
yeah.
has a defined user base and sort of customer applications.
But here I caveated that with the way it's changing. Its focus is just moving around a little bit. It's not really a product. I mean, you can't
think of it as a
really-
platform?
The whole thing.
Okay. Let's
How-
take a question from the audience because
Huh.
there's other hands going up. Is there anything?
I'll make one more
Okay, go ahead.
comment that might be
Go
too
ahead.
technical on that. Server hosting is one of the things that makes me excited about WebAssembly and being able to actually just have flat file delivery, let your local computer run these otherwise computationally intensive server-side tasks. And that's where I see a solution of web GPU, not WebGL, and WASM. We got to work on this as a way to deliver high fidelity and computationally intensive content.
I have a question here. There have been very few what we consider typical AAA games on the VR platform. A couple ones that have been out there have been fairly big successes. What can we do to get better gaming in experience? Most of it almost looks like independent gaming's that going up there. Beat Saber was not a product that was designed from the start to be a large success that it was.
Yeah, easy answer. Meta can shut down Horizons and then take all of the Horizons on their store and all the little images that tell you to go into Horizons instead of apps and get rid of all of that and then put the actual games on the store so that people can discover them and find them.
I just don't feel like there are so many really amazing advancements when it comes to what we can do with different game engines, and they keep coming out, but almost every single one of them comes with a caveat: does not function in VR. And I don't like, things big like in Unreal Engine 5, Nanite. Nanite doesn't work in VR. Nanite is supposed to be the solution to some of the worst size issues we have with games, and you can't even use it. And I don't know what the answer is, because it's kind of like the chicken and the egg. They're not going to put more resources into a VR game until a VR game makes them a ton of money. But how is a VR game going to make them a ton of money if you can't make a good enough VR game that's going to attract that many people?
That's a chicken and egg argument for every single computer platform that has ever existed for comes to
Yeah.
software.
But has anybody here paid AAA like what you would pay for a console game for a VR game?
No.
I'm trying to think
Half-Life Alyx
Half-Life
was the
Alyx
only
is when and then there's the new Batman game that came
Yeah.
out for the Quest, but that was 39. That was it wasn't AAA price even.
And we played Underdogs.
The new Alien title, Rogue Incursion, looks. I've been looking at that. That came out early this year. Rogue Incursion.
Yeah.
You've seen that? It's.
Who are the publishers?
I have to look up.
I was
the
going to
name.
say, I actually don't know. I don't know who's out here publishing the VR games, because it's not the big ones, except for Sony. Sony, we talked about that earlier. That they are an exception, that they put a lot into their headsets.
There's some great games out there in the past 2 years. Go check out some new releases. Go play Starship Home and Underdogs, and go play Coaster Mania and sit on your floor and make roller coasters. It's amazing. Oh my gosh.
That's delightful.
But why am
Yeah.
I hearing it from you and not from television? I mean, why aren't they putting a bucket load of money into promoting these games?
Well, actually, the entire
These are the people that are interested in VR. I mean, it still feels like it's very much an enthusiast thing.
Right.
Yeah.
So the general public is kind of bored with this.
They need
and,
to be
and the
sold.
gaming industry in general has had a downturn that everyone has been recognizing. Yes, sir.
Yes, and also on top of that, there's this double-edged sword right now where a lot of the game publishers' thought is multiplayer or bust.
Yep.
Very much freemium style content that they can be able to sell a lot of through MTX. And when you talk about how many people are doing multiplayer VR, it's almost immediately, oh, you're doing a single-player story narrative-driven thing? That's great. We'll talk to you later. Next, and bring them in, because they're just looking for now.
Speaking of litmus tests, Sony has recently converted all of their anime content to streaming. They're moving towards a streaming-only platform. You won't find DVDs anymore.
So I mean, is this a VR problem, or is it just a general gaming industry problem that
General
nobody
gaming
wants
industry.
AAA
Yeah,
games
I
anymore?
don't think it's just a VR problem.
Well, I think it's especially worse for VR. I make video games. It's bad. It's really bad. But it's if I wasn't exclusively a VR developer, I don't know what I would do.
Y'all want to boot into a Concord lobby after this?
We have a gentleman with his hand up over there, black shirt. You had a question, sir? Yes. Mhm.
Yep.
That has one of the genres that has improved. I agree.
One of the coolest things that happened with racing is during the pandemic, there was non-racer Formula One leagues, and they were racing with the actual Formula One racers. I mean, it was fantastic, and I know tons of people that are in Formula One VR leagues, and it's very cool.
That leads to our next question. Let's get off the consoles that are in your home. We're seeing VR arenas as a viable form, and when I say viable, I don't mean successful, because a lot of them have come and gone out of business. But we got one over in Tyson's Corner that just got started up. We went out and played it a while back, There's been some other attempts. Some of them have been in amusement parks, but they're still coming out there. Is this going to be a viable? Because there's a lot of physical things you can do in VR if you have a ready-made arena.
Yeah.
It's really interesting.
I think the onboarding's too hard still. It's just it's too high friction and experience.
We
Putting on
solved it
them.
already. Go play laser tag.
Yeah.
But on the moon. We can stop advertising it as a VR arena and start
Yeah.
taking it on, not as like, oh, let's get VR people out into a city, but oh, hey, we're a Dave and Buster's.
Well, wait a
Like, We
minute.
have great experiences that you can only
What
do
has
here.
been successful? Escape rooms. So escape
Yeah.
rooms is a form of virtual reality that actually doesn't have you wear a headset. So maybe we don't need that. That was
Yeah.
what I'm
Oh, yeah.
questioning.
So Sony actually does was at CES last year was demoing their sort of immersive like cube style rooms for group multi-user
Yeah.
entertainment experiences, which was actually kind of interesting to see where that's going.
Add some projection mapping on top, and
No, it was like it was projection mapping. You could, like there was like a Ghostbusters themed one where you could like stomp on, anyhow but yeah.
I think that Jordan has come up with one of the reasons why VR isn't quite as popular as we'd hope it would be, and that is the onboarding is too difficult. I mean, physically, monetarily, the whole life cycle of the thing is really, really involved.
You mean onboarding when you actually go into the arena and can get...
Or just putting on a headset.
Just
right?
putting on a
Yeah.
headset is
it's-
You can't crank the numbers through the theater, Ken. And that is a real...
It took Meta forever to even add multiple accounts. You need to get like custom glasses inserts in the case. It's like the built on a phone operating system that considers only one user
And speaking
forever.
of the phone, I can
Not
play
how most
Pokemon
families-
Go without anybody here even knowing it. You know.
Except for I just saw you in the rain.
Has anybody tried it on a roller coaster? Has anybody tried the VR headsets on an actual roller coaster?
Oh,
Is that-
great.
I was at
Nausea.
which theme park was it? Yeah, I was at a conference a few years ago, and there was this guy. He works for Europa Park over in Germany. They have their own VR team, and like it's insane. Like that's and I really wonder how they do it, because these are all like, you would think in a theme park those headsets would get destroyed. Like I can't imagine how they.
No. We've did.
Yeah, I don't want to be wearing that headset at the end of the day.
Disney solved that back in the day with like the Aladdin experience in the 90s. Like they were running through Randy Pausch. Well, they were at the entertainment. They started the Entertainment Technology Center, which was like next to Shell Games for a while. Anyway, but they were running big numbers through, and like 50,000 people a day, and that's where all of our motion sickness numbers come from. Was they did the percentages on that, or the science on that. But they also were solving the Disney Imagineer problems that they knew how to solve, which was like keeping this piece of hardware functioning with all these people and making it accessible to every type of body, and things that we've, on the consumer level, have like abandoned for various reasons.
And that's something that, what Steve brought up just a moment ago, and to this, is not just the onboarding. A local place cannot do Imagineer level flow through and volume that a VR zone in Tyson's can do in the same amount that somebody can do laser tag. You know, that's one of the problems, is that you can't get that amount to get in. And if we had the amount to do that, to be able to do what Steve brought up about escape rooms.
Yes.
You can set a block of time. If I had a long amount of time to get kind of onboarded, try it out, be able to understand how the game works, what to do, and go, okay, now I know what to do. When I go through these public VR experiences, I'm on the rails, I'm waiting in line for a half an hour,
Yeah.
I'm on the rails for 15 minutes,
Yep.
Cost a
and
fortune.
most of it is them just putting the pack on and walking me through how to pew-pew.
Right. Yeah.
And then I'm out the door.
Yep.
And I
Yep.
got to get back in line to try it again. It's worse than getting in line for an arcade here at MAGFest, you know, for a really hot one. You know, you're waiting forever. And so that's a big turnoff. And how hard that's been hard.
And for an experience which is only a little bit better from what you can do at home, I
Right.
might agree.
Yeah.
Right.
And that's another reason why it's more like a science experiment and a litmus test than
Yeah.
it is for the industry.
Don't get me wrong, people are spending billions of dollars trying to get into it. All the big names are in it because they think it has a possibility, but don't get in it right now to make money.
Laser tag on the moon is a good pitch. It's $1 million idea.
Unfortunately, the very
Get out
best
there.
VR arena around was a company called The Void, who just before COVID went out, yeah, they were amazing. They not only had the intellectual property, but they knew how. How can they do that? Because Disney yanked the intellectual property. Okay, well, that's different. That's the physical hardware. Gotcha.
Yeah.
They had a Marvel one that was just amazing, and adventure, and yeah.
But even then, the replayability isn't there, right?
Oh, actually, the
like-
replayability was not bad.
Really?
It wasn't,
I most of the ones I've done, I just have not. I've been like, okay, well, that was cool, but
usually there's so many things going on that you can't possibly see all of it at the same time. It's not
Yeah.
like an escape room where you figure out one thing to get out there.
The experience is short-lived too.
That, yes. Yeah, the Disney yanked the Star Wars license. It was an experience to be in the middle of VR with your friends and yell out, "Don't shoot Darth Vader." Because he appeared out of this. And that's a bad idea to shoot him.
That may be a bad thing
hell I
too.
won't.
These are turning into packaged experiences as opposed to personal experiences. So you go with the Void, and you're going to have Spider-Man or Star Wars or some kind of packaged experience.
So are we saying independent developers right now don't really have a viable way of making money off of this?
Of going into
VR to make money.
well, yeah.
VR to make money, or going into like installation and like arcade style.
Independent developers, because we are a conference of independent developers here, okay? Is there a way to make money? Sam, you are the one who's more than anyone else here.
Well, there's no money in the game industry. No. I think that in terms of trying to build for an arcade, there's nothing. It's just not there. We tried. I mentioned the other day we did a VR racing simulator for the Audrain Museum in Newport, doing vintage racing. And we approached the F1 bars down in D.C., and they said, "Oh, this is amazing, but we can't work with you because all of our decisions come from F1, and we can't support anything that's not F1." So you would have to, your options are either to find an independent proprietor who you can take your game to, which good luck, or you have to rely on it being discovered through the Meta Store or Steam, and that's about as good as any other video game putting out there. Like, if you don't have a marketing budget.
So the chances
Stuck.
of you getting success is about the same chances of getting an app in the App Store that is
Yep.
success, because
Yep.
there's too many out there. And
Yep.
we're made worse by the fact it's a smaller market, and people don't really like to spend money.
The fact that if you have to release it on a platform like Steam, there's two layers to it essentially. First off, someone has to find your game on the Steam store, and they also need to be someone that actually cares enough about VR
Yep.
to be interested in playing it.
Yeah.
There is a real number, and I don't have the facts for this, but there is a real document out there to say each platform what the average user is willing to pay money-wise. Android users don't expect to pay any Android money at all. They expect all the apps to be free. iOS are up to this level. iPad's a little bit higher. PCs, gaming is a little higher. And when you look at VR, it's not a good way of making money.
Yeah, well,
There may be a number of people who want to play these games, but again, the onboarding is a big impediment, like having to buy the devices, set up the time, connect with your friends online, number of hurdles.
Some of
there-
us were saying a few years back that the VR and AR would not be for gaming. The thing that will be pushing it is real-world use. But have we been seeing real-world uses on an economical scale?
I mean,
Well, no, go ahead.
oh, I mean,
They all have been very niche. I mean, the medical industry has absolutely gone wild with VR and AR. They love it
Yeah.
to be able to see inside a body.
forklift training. Exxon bought 50,000
Yes.
Oculus Goes.
So we have our success stories, but they're very niche.
Yeah, very,
They're
very
not-
big into manufacturing and the like. I mean, it's
Yeah.
it's a great spot for it.
Well, since we're
I mean,
getting a little closer to
Intel
time,
uses the-
let's talk about that. What's the most innovative use have you seen of VR and AR this year?
this year. Ooh.
This year,
Come out this
that,
It's 2024?
24 to 25.
Yeah.
What the Bat?
What?
What the Bat? Has anyone played that game? This is a joke answer. Okay, one person gets it. Your hands are baseball bats. It's the people who made What the Golf.
I can't even think of anything. It's
That's sad.
Because PlayStation, they were so big into VR. I feel last generation, and then this generation, there haven't been that many VR titles, and it doesn't feel like there's really anything been
I mean, can
PlayStation
I-
had one VR title that would be considered AAA, and that was that little robot that you did.
Oh, was Astrobot?
Yeah,
VR?
Astrobot was
it-
considered
okay,
a successful AAA
I'm not
game.
saying that like there aren't good VR games. There are very, very many good VR games. It's just that in terms
Successful,
of being
yeah.
financially successful,
Can I plug Starship Home as
Yeah.
as a success?
Yeah.
I mean, I worked on it, but
Unbiased.
I'm biased.
Starship Home is, if you haven't seen this, it is spectacular.
I mean, it's probably the best. I mean, you turn your living room into a spaceship. You go
Yeah.
around, fly to planets,
So
have weird
cool.
planet
I know
dreams.
it's
It's
going to be
amazing.
hard for you guys to see it, but if you actually get an Apple Vision Pro, someone borrow it to it, make sure you do What If. What If is the most amazing avatar. I'm in my room in a VR environment watching the 5 Infinity Stones, and then we fade back to my living room, and the Watcher is there next to me as a person talking to me. It was an avatar in the real world experience, and then a portal opened up, and not Doctor Strange, but the other guy, the other magician, Wong. Thank you. Wong stepped through, and he started engaging me as if he was just in my living room as a real person, and
Yeah.
he believed
Yeah.
it. And it happened so subtly that I hadn't realized this was an avatar experience, something we've been talking about for 20 years,
Yeah.
and it just happened. So that was a success.
I'm probably going to go back to the one I mentioned yesterday, which is this is more of a niche product, but it's the Cognize quarterback training program that
Yes.
Jaden Daniels is using. In terms of like hard value and return on metrics, they have a spectacular case study that you could actually see. That like as sort of you've actually seen sort of the buzz about it as the Commanders have been more successful and Jaden Daniels has been more successful. You're seeing a lot of other like sports teams be like, well, wait a minute, like that. Those are pretty spectacular results, and there's a lot of like real benefit that would justify the cost of adopting it. So I think you're going to see that.
We've talked about games, and we've talked about training and education. Is there any
Yeah.
other use of VR that's been innovative for the past year?
Well, I was just going to say probably training and education.
Yeah.
You had
Yeah.
I mean, it's where people are making investment.
Yeah, you had a talk yesterday on education in VR, and there seem to be a lot of success stories.
So Steve, head over there to the VR portal, and you will discover category number 3, social.
So here the AI and the VR are driving the show.
Would you
not-
define those
not
as
the human
successes,
being,
though?
not the player.
I mean, you're not talking to me as a product manager. I'm using open platforms, and I'm making friends. It's a massive success for users.
For VR portal?
Yeah, okay, there always are.
Yeah.
Wait,
Yeah.
Which platform? I'm sorry.
Well, VR chat is the good one.
It's probably.
Resident.
Extremely slowly.
Which
We,
one?
we can talk after about the UX decisions Resonite made. That's a different talk.
I need to get exposure to this. I've never set foot in VR chat. I probably should. I know.
We are seeing a
people-
lot of
they're
explosion in
mainly
this area
solving all the design
of AR
problems.
avatars mixing with real people.
what they're doing.
So sometimes you don't know
Now I can
the
make it
person you're
global.
talking
Thank you.
to is a person or an AI. And if you don't really care, what difference does it make?
The technology behind what Unreal's been doing with MetaHuman, did you see some of its latest just fully AI?
Oh, the renderings.
The fully AI
Yes.
MetaHumans where they were actually doing fully rigged face out high AAA characters that they are putting in script. They're using the AI voice is all right, but it's not the main factor. It is more about it is taking so much away from the work of having to do character face rigging.
Oh yeah,
It's impressive.
just a real quick to that note, and I think it's really good for this because yes, metahumans are incredible, and we use them for our VR project. The things that metahuman can do, and you're right, the rigging, we've done stuff with AI stuff where you can do lip syncing. It's all in Unreal. You can do facial expressions to match emotions. You can only run at most 4 metahumans on a standalone VR headset. It's a bit better if you're plugged into a computer. Hair does not work in VR.
Enough for me to jam with the Beatles.
It's got serious issues with like the transparency level, and it's a shame because to the thing of like I want to be able to talk to VR Abraham Lincoln. That's the answer. It's metahumans are there. The rigging is the best way to do it. You can have the AI lip sync and everything, but it's once again nobody cared to think, how is this going to work in VR?
Yeah, I think they're mainly working on it for the AAA desktop, just to be able to get them off the ground and funded in. And then you're starting to see the performance starting to get there. And then people taking just the metahuman rig and applying that to their performance
Because that's the
characters
standard
is starting
now,
to
which
get,
is so nice.
yeah. And that really is helpful for smaller devs.
We talked about education, we talked about games. What about VR tourism? That has been one of the successes. People being able to be in their glasses on and going to see what London looks like.
So I used to produce virtual college campus tours.
Yes.
So if you need a really highly saturated 360 photo of the quad with like someone mid throw of a frisbee, I got you. I used to be a UVisit photographer. So I've been to a lot of colleges. These are successful virtual tours. So virtual tourism, where they're motivated by the end user. I mean, talk to myself. I'm motivated by experiences, and VR isn't there for me. But other forms of tourism, where it's the spaces that are not accessible, like that tiny little college campus,
Or
up in
ones
New
that
York
don't
that I have to
exist
fly
anymore.
to and stay at a terrible hotel. Because no one else is going to do that, so they want to see these places. Hotels. What else? Like,
We were just talking yesterday for anybody up near Pittsburgh at the National Aviary. That's one of one of the best VR tourism experiences I've ever done. It's called Birdly, and essentially they strap you to a wooden bird thing, and you move the structure as you move, and there's a fan in front of you.
Oh, yeah.
It's actually really good, and you can
It's super
fly
cool.
around Zurich, and like it's fun because the fidelity's high enough that you can actually make out what the buildings were and where everything was.
No nausea?
But no, I was that, like I said, this is a like standout thing. I've never experienced like that, but I've only seen it in the National Aviary. So
I think I saw it implemented at Meow Wolf in Vegas too.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
We love getting together and talking about this because this is a really leading edge industry with a lot of things popping out and not very well advertised. So the what?
oh my God!
Yeah.
I thought
But
you were talking about the person who made the Four Seasons from that one press conference in VR chat.
Oh wow. But I think it kind of comes back to that though. How do people access the is there demand? Are people going out like, you know what? I want to do virtual tourism so badly. I'm going to go buy a Quest, right?
Flip it around, yeah.
Yeah, right. It's,
I'm never going to
it's-
climb Mount Everest, but I know what it looks like from top now, much better than any picture ever showed me.
Well, right. You do because you have a Quest and you have easy access to this stuff, right? But is there enough demand for these experiences outside of location-based experiences that it's driving
A
people to
lot
get
of
there?
money is going in right now to record in 360 concerts and sporting events. So
Yeah.
you can watch
Sporting
them.
events.
Swift.
Absolutely. Well, and
Concerts.
I will say that is one area where the Vision Pro 100% shines. Like the made for the Vision Pro experiences. That's where whenever I like onboard people into it and go through the long slog painful process of tailoring it to them, that once that they're kind of sitting there like at the piano with Alicia Keys or on the court that's when jaws drop open, and you could see that being
I
killer.
can't believe you're going to make me bring up Fortnite.
Yeah.
The Fortnitification of our industry.
The experiences, the concerts, the events that
Yeah.
are
Yeah.
very successful and
Hugely
pretty
successful.
good. And as someone who does like the media production and like the visual design, like who's working on these? They're way better than
And
they have
they're-
any right to be.
And they're one of the
Yeah.
exceptions to the rules. For some reason, users seem to be willing to pay tickets to get into these events,
Well,
but not
yeah.
buy the software to do other events. So
What?
it's actually a financial success.
And way more enjoyable than previous attempts. I remember somewhere they were like Horizon style, where you would go to a concert, but it would basically just be you would be sitting in a virtual auditorium while it was projected on a big screen, and you're just kind of like, right? But the Fortnite has really figured out something there.
I want to make a parallel comparison here. People might not know this, but the NFL recorded all football games in high def 20 years before the high-def televisions were available out there because they wanted to have this information there available so they could show past games.
It's funny because I think it was the third channel
Yeah.
that we ever got on our first one. It was HD1, HD2, and then we got football.
Yeah, because they had known this was coming. Now they are starting to record in 360 other events and venues for the exact same thing. They may not have enough people now for it to be viable, but somewhere historically down the line, it will be.
Now, success with Apple and NFL means lots and lots and lots of money. I mean, you can't get a quality product
So-
apparently without gigantic amounts of licensing and.
Now that we've accidentally outed ourselves as football fans at MAGFest,
Yeah.
and I
It
will be
was
watching the
impressive,
games
though.
tonight.
I saw a soccer game
Oh yeah. Um,
recorded from different points of view and pumped into virtual
Yeah.
reality. And it was really amazing.
Steve, I want to bring up one more industry.
do.
Filmmaking.
We're actually over time right now,
Oh, are
and
we?
we will continue to talk while there are people here.
There's filmmaking, virtual filmmaking. There's money out there for it, and the stuff that's happening is incredible and very impressive.
Yeah. So
Maybe
yeah,
I'll just leave it at that.
I mean, that's a lot of what I'm working on nowadays in terms of being able to make immersive media content that, like, a year ago, time and resources and budget-wise, I would
Thank
have
you for
never been
coming.
able to attempt before. And I think
Yeah.
that's just going to accelerate.
You know how to make
So
something
it's-
photoreal? Use the camera.
Do we have any other questions
Well-
from the audience, please, before we shut down?
But, well,
the e-commerce industry is quickly turning towards digital experience platforms that heavily center the customer experience layer. Do you all see any potential use for VR in e-commerce?
That was something that was actually popular when we talked about this, being able to see a piece of furniture in your room or being able to see a shirt
Yeah.
on your body. And it has not been as successful.
Yeah, I mean, IKEA's app is successful, and everyone looks at that and they goes, that's successful. But I
yeah.
went to the Snap booth at the shoe store in London, and it made me feel very sad.
Yeah.
And
It-
sold at, and like
So-
maybe that's just my reaction to that kind of
Well,
thing.
Amazon has that too, right? Like it's actually integrated into their product pages now to be able to, like, say this.
Yeah.
It's a novelty. Yeah.
There's a lot of stores that I feel want it. I mean, I've had multiple companies reach out to us and say, "Hey, can we do like these VR store experiences?" And it always comes down to two things. One, they look at it and they're like, "Well, what makes this super different from just an online web page?" And then the other question is, okay, this is really cool. How are people going to easily access it? And then you run into problems of the headsets not all working with.
And how
with,
many
like,
people
web
are
VR.
actually having headsets to do it with?
Exactly. So it's like, if you're selling chairs and you're a specialized chair store, it already has a very niche audience, and now you want a niche percentage of that audience that has VR headsets. It's a several $1,000 investment to build these spaces.
We got to bring back Google Cardboard.
Even with
Here for it.
Over here.
100% here for it.
Over here on this side.
Let's
E-
make it happen.
even with Amazon having quick links to visible AR on their apps to be able to view this, I feel that there is a bit of a problem of trust because you don't know who is capturing these things correctly and accurately to make sure that they're one-to-one actual scale. And that's been some of the problems that I've run into is I look at like a couch that they put up and I'm checking it out like those cushions look way too big. It looks like it should be in World of Warcraft. Like they're exaggerated assets. And so if you're not able to trust the people that are providing the photogrammetry or the renders of those items, it defeats the whole purpose of see it in your room or see it on your
Yeah.
body.
The e-commerce of seeing things in your home has not been successful. The use of VR by architects and interior designers who have their clients come to them and you put the glasses on to see what it looked like, that has been a big success. A lot of people are making lots of money on that right now. And not only having your whole custom house being shown up into you in VR, but going to your own existing home, scanning the home for the size, and then having some interior designer. It's a faster tool for them to do it, you know?
Yeah,
So-
but those photos aren't as good as mine. So you should really hire a photographer to fly out to you. Really, it's,
Fly Hunter out to your projects.
Okay,
it will
what,
be better.
since we're going to shut this down in a few minutes, what do we want to see in 2025? What's the thing that's missing that you would like to have?
I want to see the historical experiences. I think I think we very much have the same ideas of like I think that is going to open so many doors. If you can talk to like Frederick Douglass and ask him questions and he can accurately respond to things and it's all in VR, high fidelity, that I think needs to happen, and that I think is the next step to moving the education stuff forward.
Shenandoah University is doing that right now for Benjamin Franklin.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Take a look at that experience. A really great experience.
Yeah, building up that too, I really want to see the democratization of the content creation tools, like the ability for anybody to create their own sort of custom chatbot. Now, I want to see that for these environments. I want that to stop being sort of the bottleneck of why people don't adopt the technology, and really open up the potential for people to be able to really build what they need and to have that dynamic understanding.
I'm with Jordan. I think improvement in the substrates and infrastructure for getting it in the hands of people and developers is really important.
And end users. They should be able to have tools be easy enough for someone user to do it.
Beyond me loving WebXR, I'll leave that answer already answered. I think that metas should get their shared location multiplayer, get that toolkit up and running and usable by someone other than the slot car VR person who's done so much work to get slot cars VR running. Go play it. It's just for that dev's sake.
That sounds really fun.
I know, it's great. And I want a few of those games to get into a few people's hands. You see a few videos on a Twitch or something of people playing these games in that shared space, and that could be a new couch co-op, but with more. Couch co-op on the moon. I think there's a
Sam,
big
what about
category
you?
there.
Oh, no, I already said.
Okay.
I
John?
yeah.
Oh, I already
Okay.
spoke about these.
I just want a pair of AR glasses that don't feel like sunglasses. I want to not have to feel like the world's dimmed so much around me.
Yeah,
That is the one thing that is absolutely killing me, is it just hurts my face, even if I have the glasses on my glasses.
So one thing that's cool that the spectacles do is it actually has a dimming mode where
Yeah.
it will go from like.
Yeah.
That's going to wrap us up.
No,
You're
no,
not
I'm
allowed
sorry.
to talk about those glasses of glass until you bring them.
Magic Leap 2 had positional occlusions, so then you could set certain, or that the person could set the experience.
have a little plastic thing I can put in front of them to dim them.
Oh yeah, that's
One
yeah.
piece of hardware I'd like to see would be better glasses. We want the experience that the Apple Vision Pro gives you with a face so you can see through your eyes, which means glasses that give us solid graphics, not bad HoloLens or Google Glass pass-through.
You want a Varjo XR3, but at a human price.
And we want them at a reasonable price, yes. I mean, if I go out and get $10,000 glasses, that solves the problem, not.
I could never.
Yeah.
I could-
It's watching me try to put in contacts is like body horror at its worst. It's
I'm sorry, the latest statistics still say 5% of the people out there cannot handle VR. Their mind doesn't, or their eyes doesn't. It makes them nauseous. My wife falls in this category, by the way. So to have us even more limited to people who can put on contacts.
but there are some cool like projects out there looking at it though.
Yes.
But I think that'll be like niche applications though. It'll be you'll have to be the right like pilots, right? You'll have to have like minimum.
Jaden Daniels.
They don't like that.
all roads lead back.
No,
to
don't
to-
put
to
it,
this
don't
example.
put it with
That's the
pilots
thing
because they
to
don't
do
like
that.
them because high-speed impacts, the lens moves around. They're quite happy to have glasses.
So you can see that it really is in the realm of science projects because they're experimenting with different modes of use, and nobody's going to put a lot of money into something that, creates a population of 100 million nauseous people with bad contacts and body horror.
Yeah.
We should wrap up.
Yes, thank you for coming. Thank you for putting it up with us. We'll be around if you want to have any questions. I urge you to take a look at the YouTube videos from the past years. They have really good talks we've done, not just us, but other groups online. And if you want to get involved in the VR community, LinkedIn is one of the best sources that has a lot of information being passed around.
Last year.
And thank you, gentlemen, for coming.
Thank you for having us.